ultimately, you can only become better at speaking any language if you speak it. And there's fear of speaking because of making grammar, stylish, whatever mistakes, fear of forgetting words or something like this that holds back people from practicing. And that uh, in its own turn slows the progress.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fluency Project, the podcast where language learners unlock their potential. We are on a mission to empower language learners by sharing practical tools, new ways of thinking, and inspiring stories so you can break through barriers and thrive in your language journey. My name is David Herrera. I am your host, and in every episode, I will sit down with polyglots, educators, and everyday learners who have cracked the code. Together, we are going to explore the habits, strategies, and aha moments that make fluency achievable for you. Today's episode is brought to you by thefluencyproject.com. If you are in a journey to learn Spanish, English, or French, you are in luck, because we are opening our calendar for free assessments on your level on these languages and helping you to craft the best way to learn. Follow the link in the show notes and you will be able to schedule your 100% free language assessment spot. I would recommend to do it as soon as you can because we have limited spots and we just open those once a week. With that said, let's dive into today's conversation. Hello, Jenya. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, David. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting.
Well, absolutely. I really appreciate your time. And well, let's dive in, Jenya. So, you have coached countless professionals in your career. How did you discover this was your calling?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I discovered this calling through my personal and professional crisis. So around 2010, I was on track with a different career in executive search. It's a recruitment which is looking for top executives. And I thought I got my dream job. And that dream job very quickly became a nightmare. It became so clear for me that it's anything but a good fit. So honestly, I was fired from this job and I found myself in this limbo space. And I didn't have a job, but I also didn't have a dream. Like, if this supposed to be my dream job and it's not, then what to dream about? And then I went through a month of soul searching, kind of looking inside and thinking, what do I want my life to be about? So then I came across coaching. It became an instant fit into my personal values, like helping people to realize their potential, to live their best possible lives. Like, yeah, sign me up. That's me.
So that was the moment that you realized this is what I want to do and I want to help people to, become their best selves.
Yes. But it kind of was a top of my deep reflection that I was able to recognize that. Because sometimes we don't recognize our opportunities because we don't know deep down what we actually want.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and it's for sure is a lot of people in that journey of discovering themselves. Even me, I have a hard time finding myself as well. So, well, thank you for sharing that. So, this podcast is about language learning, and for me, it's really important to know the person that I'm, talking to, and their career path, but also about the languages. So, I understand that your mother language is Russian. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So, what languages have transformed your life, and which are you, currently learning or want to learn in the future?
Yeah. So about transformation, compare two pictures. So the first, like the earlier picture of me is I was born in a very small town in Siberia, in Soviet Russia. And well, I could easily just stay there and I would speak Russian my whole life, and probably that would be my life living in this small town. Somehow, as a child, I always wanted just to learn foreign language. It was irrational desire. Something I felt like it's something cool to do and that I would need it. So, and then fast forward almost 50 years from that, I am living in Boulder, Colorado. 90% of my clients speak English. I have English speaking friends, and my boyfriend also is English speaking. So it's completely this without English language, my current life could not be the same. And this whole journey of learning English, it kind of shaped my personality as well, because it was not a short or easy journey.
Yeah, for sure. It is completely true. Yeah, so that's superb. And so that leads me to the why. Because you're mentioning a whole new life because a whole new language. So beyond career benefits, what's the most surprising way learning languages change you?
Well, remember I mentioned this irrational desire as a child. Just I just want to learn foreign language. I think that's the we all have this kind of inclinations we are born with. And I believe that was a sign of my inclination that the small town was too small for me. I wanted to travel. I wanted to live in different cultures. And for that, I would need a language. And what it did to me, it definitely widened my perspective. And perspective is everything. Then you are able to look at things from different angles. And language gives you, because language is connected to culture, and culture is a system of beliefs, it's a system of worldview. And through language, you kind of start being able to see things from all these different perspectives. Also, there is another very curious thing about learning a second or even third language. I once was reading a book about bilingual children. Well, because my own kids are bilingual. And child psychologist made a point that we help our kids to learn second language. We almost create a backup system in their brain. So they're able to shift from one language system to another. I mean, not in case the one fails, but just think about this. Your brain has double security.
Mhm.
So that's on its own a very interesting reason.
It is actually interesting. So let me circle back to the irrational desire. That is a really interesting phrase. What did you do to change that irrational desire to a rational one? That one that you say, I can achieve this.
See, I don't think you need to. Then I say irrational desire, like as a child, we like as a kid, we're pretty, as a children, we're pretty limited in what we can understand about the world. So me living in the small Siberian town, there was no reason for me to speak English. So that's what I mean, that desire was irrational, but it was so strong that I was acting on it. So it was a motivation. Like I would do my English classes homework. And for example, then they switched teachers in our school, and I was not happy with my English teacher anymore. I insisted, and I was not a very rebellious child, but in this case, I insisted that they would transfer me to the class with a good teacher, because there was this conviction in me that I need that. I don't know why. I need it. I
That's
need this
absolutely,
language.
yeah, that's absolutely amazing. because you for me at least resonates with the concept of faith. Like it,
Mm.
for me at least, faith is not just believing that I can do something, but act upon it. And that is what you're describing here. It's not just, oh yeah, I want to learn a language and magically it's gonna appear in my head the words, but actually you took action and went to take better classes, better teachers, better materials as well, so you were able to learn that. That's amazing. So you have seen professionals' lives shifts through language. What is the most powerful example you have witnessed?
Do you mind if I offer you my own example? Not to brag,
Absolutely,
but
no.
so at some point I worked at Winter Olympic Games, which Russia held in Sochi in 2014, and I was a deputy head of the race office for alpine skiing. So that was a very fun 4 year. I mean, it was 4 years kind of me having the side career as a ski race official at World Cup, Europe Cup, World Championship, and finally at Winter Olympic Games. But it all started like a few years before the Olympics. Then ultimately, this Russian Ski Federation was looking for people with two skills. They can ski and they can speak English. And that's how I got on this journey. And it was literally amazing. I met so many dedicated people. I mean, it was fun to meet famous athletes, famous skiers. It was fun being a part of something I believe in, and I believe in Olympic Games, kind of like the symbol of sport and peace. So it was very aligned with my own vision. So, and all of that, it also involved a lot of travel and a lot of professional growth. Uh, but all of that became possible only because I was able to speak English. Russia had enough skiers, but very few skiers in Russia were able to speak English. That's how I got on this track.
That is a great story, Jenya, and it speaks to me because for me it was a way to open doors. As yourself, my mother language is Spanish, as you may remember, and English is my second language. And if I didn't learn English in the past, I probably couldn't find a good job back in my country. I couldn't, develop the experience that I built, and coming to the U.S. and completing my graduate studies and all that. So a second language is not just for speaking with people. That is, of course, that is the main reason. But why you want to speak to people is because that open doors. So now I want to shift gears and talk a little bit about the mind. As a coach, probably you have seen a lot of people facing a lot of different barriers and blocks in their lives. Some of them are probably outside of their own selves, but some of them are internally and in their mind. So, what's number one fear or myth you hear from learners, and why does it hold them back?
Yeah, there is one very, very popular. It's a fear of making mistakes and looking ridiculous in the eyes of those who listen. And this is such a barrier, such a hold on people to move forward in their proficiency, in their fluency. Because ultimately, you can only become better at speaking any language if you speak it. And this fear of speaking because of making grammar, stylish, whatever mistakes, fear of forgetting words or something like this, that holds back people from practicing, and that uh, in its own turn slows the progress. It's this any type of self-consciousness, like, oh, how am I going to look like? Am I going to be? what are they going to think about me? So that's not the point. So if somebody is able to talk like before the conversation, important conversation, to himself and intentionally shift the focus from it doesn't matter how many mistakes I'm going to make. What is important that I give it an honest try with mistakes and all. And the practice shows that at least native speakers, they're so forgiving. I mean, especially I can give you example with my French. There was a short period in my life when I was learning French. I it was about 15 years ago. So I was only learning it for a year, and I arrived to France and I tried to communicate. And I did make a lot of mistakes, of course. But every single person was appreciating that I was trying and was kind of helping me. And like, yeah, it's just not the point. The point is, are you trying to connect with real person? And what are you trying to convey? Shift the focus on that rather than how am I going to look like? Am I making mistakes?
I can relate with that story and with that mindset, maybe not in languages but in other areas, because that
Mm.
is something that I guess that, and I think that a lot of people have that feeling in their heart, feeling to be ridiculous or sound ridiculous, or you
Mhm.
know just expose themselves, and sometimes we are very protected
Yeah,
with uh-huh.
exactly. I like how you say exposed because then we're making mistakes. We feel vulnerable, and no one likes that. But in order to progress, you need to be okay with feeling uncomfortable, with feeling vulnerable sometimes, and with making mistakes.
Absolutely. And then vulnerability is a key part of learning. If you are not vulnerable, you're not going to be able to do pretty much anything, because you're not going to be able to open yourself and even try new things, try new words, try new ways to use it. So I feel that that is an important part on the learning process. I have a question for you, because as a coach, probably again, you have seen a lot of people, and there are things that people can change and immediately like create a different perspective or a different way of learning. As a coach, what is a mindset shift that you have seen instantly unlock progress in people?
Well, it's interesting um, how people think about coaching and the
I know.
instantaneity of results. Well, first of all, I want to sort of disappoint you and the audience by saying that, well, pretty much no results are instant. There are insights, there are perspective shifts, but they are not the same that results. And I believe that it will, one way or another, it still will take a lot of effort to learn English or any other language for that matter. But there is one thing which I believe is crucial in terms of mindset. And I would say it's knowing your why. Because why exactly do you want to spend all this time and effort and be uncomfortable and persist and persevere with studying the language? If your connection with your why, your motivation, your deep reasons is not strong enough, it's very likely one way or another you will quit, or you will not see the opportunities. Because we're all starting from different places, we're all in different situations, and we can like dispense tips on how to learn language, but they may or may not be applicable to a particular person. For example, can I give you another personal story? So
Yeah.
it's connected to motivation, and because of that, seeing opportunities to practice and move towards the goal. When I was like in the middle of just learning my English, it was beginning of 90s. in Russia. So there was not much international connection. I mean, Siberia is a pretty far away place from everything.
Yeah.
But what's interesting that in 90s, then the Soviet Union opened all the borders and foreigners were able to come in more freely. A lot of Western churches, American churches, send their missionaries to Russia. And those missionaries reached deep into Siberia, everywhere pretty much. So that became my opportunity to practice English. I mean, not that I was very interested in Bible at that time, but I was very interested in speaking with somebody who speaks real native English. Can I give this tip to other listeners? Like, hey, go find an English speaking mission. No, of course not. That's not a good tip. But that's a story which illustrates them. Then you know what you want. You will find ways. They will become more obvious for you. And those ways might be different for different people.
Yeah. I mentioned in my initial episode introducing myself the why I decided to learn English. And I was a missionary in Ecuador. Ecuador was, of course, not an English speaking country, but I have companions from America. And I started just talking to them about silly things. I remember one time we were just throwing a ball. They were just throwing a ball. They're talking among themselves in their language, and I wanted to participate in that, but I didn't know how to say that. And I say to one friend from Colombia who who speak English, and I say, how do I say, pásame la bola, or pass me the ball? I didn't know that phrase. It's very simple, but I didn't know that one. And as soon as he told me how to say it, I tried. And as soon as I tried, they just turned their heads and started playing with me. And that moment was for me like, okay, that is interesting because I can connect with other people just by using their language. So that creates a moment when the purpose connects, and I wanted to learn
Yeah.
English.
I guess the takeaway from both of our stories is that very often motivation is very specific. Like for you, I just want to play the ball. I just want to connect with these people. And yeah, and that's how you find options. I can actually relate to that. At some point in my life, when I was in university, in a group of my friends, we had this guy from Denmark. Again, it was probably the first foreigner I ever met. And his views on everything was so vastly different. His life experience was so vastly different from mine. I was eager to learn from him. But my only way to learn from him was to become better at English. So for at least a year, my motivation to learn English was so I could be able to speak to this guy.
Yeah, exactly. And your motivations can change, can grow, can become, of course, more deep, better. But as soon as you have a deep and important and profound motivation, that is going to help you go through. And it doesn't
Yes.
matter what happened. You are going to do whatever it takes to learn whatever you want to learn.
Yes. That's what I have to say about unlocking progress.
Exactly. All the time. So you already mentioned that you learned English quite a few years ago, but from what you remember, what is a non-obvious tool or habit that accelerated your learning?
Well, I'm not sure if you can call this a tool, but I guess what I was always doing, I was seeking opportunities to speak, to practice, even if it was difficult, uncomfortable, awkward a lot of time. I just seek those opportunities anyway.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, because I deeply believe in, ideally, it's immersion. Then
Uh-huh.
you are immersed in English language or any language for that matter, and you pretty much have no choice. If you want to express yourself, you need to use the language, period.
That's it. Yeah.
That accelerates learning. Okay.
So by practicing, you were able to understand new words, new perspectives, and new ideas from the people that you were trying to talk to, right?
Correct. And I would add that I'm still learning English. I mean, it has been what, 35 years, and now my work means that I talk to people in English all day long, and I'm still learning. Every week there are a couple more words or concepts which are new to me, and that I don't believe it's ever going to stop. At least I don't want to. And I always listen for how people who are native speakers or who are better speakers, how did they say that? Because then you are in real communication. The, you get information through the situation, through nonverbal language, through the context, and like, oh, that's what he wanted to express, and that's how he did it. Okay, mental note for myself. And then I look for opportunity to insert this new learning somewhere, even if it's a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, can I use this new word in this situation? Sometimes it goes awesome. Sometimes I get like, what? That's not how you say that.
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
Like,
yeah.
okay.
I totally relate to that. And trying to use, I what I really like about learning a new language is just the way that you can try new things, try new tones, try new words, try new situations, and see if that works. It's kind of an experiment, and in that experiment, you discover a lot of how to communicate with different people.
Yeah.
So, well, Jenya, this conversation has been amazing. Every episode, we are trying to share with our listeners a way that they can take action and start doing something today. So, if listeners take one thing from today, what small daily action will have the biggest ripple effect?
Well, can I offer a challenge for that?
For sure, please challenge us. I will try as well.
So, whatever language you are learning, whatever language is still relatively new or difficult for you, choose the topic which is not comfortable and give yourself a permission. Literally, say it out loud. I give myself permission to make as many mistakes as needed, and then speak out loud on that topic for at least a few minutes. Just your goal is just to keep speaking, keep speaking, keep speaking.
Okay. So the challenge for this week is gonna be try a new topic and just go ahead and speak that topic out loud. Just hear yourself and give permission to just make mistakes and sound silly,
Yes,
sound
yes,
ridiculous.
yes. The main thing is give yourself permission to make mistakes and be ridiculous and be awkward. Period. That's a major challenge for people. For most of us, it's a major challenge to be ridiculous and awkward.
Uh-huh. That's absolutely true. Well, Jenya, thank you very much for your time and for your insights and your stories. That has been really appreciated for this podcast. And I hope our listeners will take all the insights that you have shared today and apply them in their lives. Thank
Thank
you.
you, David, for inviting. Thanks.
Thank you for listening this episode of the Fluency Project. I wish we helped you find your way to learn a new language and that you can use all these tools to help you in the process. Before you go, don't forget about 3 things. First, share this episode with those you know are learning a new language so they can start getting the tools to thrive. Second, leave us a review in the platform you like. That will help us to reach more language learners. And third, don't forget to secure your free language assessment using the link in the show notes. I'll see you in the next episode to keep growing and learning together. Until next time.